Hello, today I'm talking about prudence. This is the third meditation on prudence. The previous two was kind of spontaneous, and today I prepared some questions which I'd like to discuss on Saturday at the speaking club. But before going to the event, I consider these questions myself. So today I'd like to meditate on each of these questions, but not in depth, but only for a couple of minutes, just to see, is there something that may be discussed? Sometimes I make questions, and unfortunately, later I find that there's almost nothing to discuss. So I think, well, this is an interesting question. It makes sense. I probably will tell a lot of things if somebody asks me this question, but then I come to the club, and some of these questions, they're kind of dead ends. I ask a question, somebody says one or two things, and there's no way to go. Anyway, so today I prepared 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions. And as I said, I'd like to touch on each of these questions and talk about it for a couple of minutes. I also want to emphasize that for me, what's important here at these meditations, at these videos, I practice my English and I practice my speech. So for me, it's really important to focus on pronunciation, on grammar, on certain style. So I want to develop a certain style. Yesterday I was thinking about it and realized that I want to ask more questions. So whenever I speak, I found that I usually use a sort of assertive style. So I always say, this is it, this is that. And also I do some imperatives, like commands. So as I advise somebody else or myself to do something. But I think there must be more questions. Just this realization and this idea, if I keep it in mind for enough time, I'll guess it'll bring certain result. And then finally I'll be able, like now I want to do it deliberately. So I want to think about it. And then I want to make it to appear naturally in my speech. The questions, probably every 5th or 10th sentence must be a question sentence. That's kind of ideal way. Is it going to work? I don't know. That's what I'm eager to find. Anyway, so seven questions. Yeah. Another thing which bothers me is my obsession with the appearance. So I see that I actually do it to examine myself. So these videos, they are not to teach somebody else. I do them for myself, even though sometimes I may publish them just to see how people react, or how I react to this. But essentially, the goal is to examine my own knowledge, my own understanding. And whenever I am bothered by a mistake or some slip of the tongue, I want to get rid of this, this whatever is here in me, which gets annoyed whenever I again do a mistake. So I want to feel free and get rid of all anxiety. No matter if I make a mistake, that's okay. It may be fun. Why not to make fun of ourselves? Sometimes it may be very, very exciting. And if it occurs all the time, it's a problem. I want to discover what makes me think that I make mistakes all the time. Since when I watch these videos afterwards, most of them are very good. I evaluate them thinking that, yeah, I expressed exactly what I wanted to express, and I actually said, like, I discovered something which may help me to develop the topic. Why do I think that it was a bad performance? Why do I think that there were so many mistakes? Whereas in reality, there are few mistakes, or at least much less than people usually do. But still, this desire to be perfect, to always speak cleverly, to always use certain words, certain phrases and expressions. Yet this is something that I want to gradually get rid of and feel free. All right, so let's begin. So the first question is, what makes us prudent? And I think it's a nice question to start discussion about prudence. And I guess everybody has a certain idea what is prudence, and at least everyone can imagine some course of actions which they may take to become more prudent. Or we may think about it from the perspective when a person actually does not aim at becoming prudent, but he practice certain certain techniques, or he practice certain rituals or certain types of behavior which make him or her prudent. And these types of behavior, for example, maybe meditation, right? So we may think of, does meditation make us prudent? So this is a question, and ultimately the answer to this question may be positive and negative. So some people may say, no, meditation actually has nothing to do with prudence. It helps us to still our mind. It helps us to be more, confident. It helps us to have emotional regulation, but it has nothing to do with prudence, since oftentimes meditation and thinking is not enough to accomplish a right action. Sometimes there's too much thinking, so people think for for a long period of time over decisions which require just few minutes. And there may be an opposite way. So when people actually take some rash decisions which require lots of time of deliberation, so it's always makes sense to discover the right amount of time which we should dedicate to every decision. And this may be prudent. Again, thinking, meditation, for example, when you like what I'm doing right now, it's a sort of meditation. And for me, I definitely believe that doing this meditation on a long-term scale, for example, every day for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes, it actually makes me prudent. That's why that's why I'm doing this exercise, since it makes me more prudent. It helps me to see the future. It helps me to see how to communicate, what kind of things I should say, what kind of things I shouldn't say, how to influence people in a particular way, how to not influence them in a different way, how to be a good speaker, a good communicator, how to probably be a good leader, how to organize conversations, etc. So all this helps me to see what exactly I can say. And often when I watch these videos afterwards, I see that some things in particular I wouldn't like to repeat, and I just get rid of them. And other things which I find useful, I double down on those things. So I say them more, and this is very helpful. Again, thinking, exercise, meditation. But since I am doing that on a almost daily basis for many years, of course, I may have multiple reasons to say that this is actually a prudent exercise, or it makes me prudent. But other people, for example, who do not do, and lots of people, basically, very few people do that. Very few people think, especially aloud, about what's going on in their lives, and use this exercise for particular purposes. And if they don't do that, of course, they may say, oh no, maybe it doesn't make any sense, or it's useless exercise. I'd better go and watch some video where somebody will teach me how to be prudent, or I'll better read a book or invest my time into working or communicating with people, since it also may be beneficial. You may go on the internet, find a group of philosophers who talk about prudence and have conversations with them, and it also may make you prudent. But yeah, there may be arguments like whether or not it makes us prudent to meditate, but it's just one thing. So there are other things like consulting other people consulting experts. Like, does it make us prudent? And also there may be different opinions. Like, sometimes it's better to do things on your own and exercise your faculty, exercise your prudence. And at other times, of course, it's foolish to do things on your own. It's better to ask people who have already done something like that. And again, there must be some kind of balance between those two, ways of behavior, and probably finding the right balance is prudent. Okay, the second question is, what is the function of prudence in our society? And well, when I was making up this question, I was thinking that prudence in different cultures plays a different role. And for example, I studied like ancient cultures, Greeks, Romans. I studied 19th century cultures, like Russian culture, 19th century, and the Germans and French of 17th century. So essentially, I would say that in every culture and probably in every age, there are differences between like how much people actually value prudence. For example, in Asian cultures, probably people value prudence much more than we value it right now. But we actually don't know, since all we have from ancient times is just books written by people who actually were concerned with prudence. And at that time, it was very prudent to learn to write and read books. Whereas there were so many people who lived at ancient times, and we don't know anything about them. Probably in our age, most of what we have right now, all these technologies, YouTube's, social networks, like in few hundred years, probably nothing of it will survive. And or maybe there will be on YouTube channel. On YouTube now is there's some lectures, some professors who spend 50 years learning philosophy and the sciences, and they have brilliant lectures, and they're like 20,000 views, for example. Just an example from John Searle lectures, and other lectures with cat just playing some ball, and those videos have millions of views. And some stupid songs have, again, billions of views. And if we measure, like you would say that if we look at the amount of people who pay attention to certain things, it's very hard to say that like people, it seems that people don't value prudence. They value some other things. And prudence, what we have right now, probably it like out of these videos, like all these videos with cat will survive, and videos made by some philosophers and scientists will all disappear. Our people who will come after us will say, oh, these guys were just concerned with cats and with there was some stupid dancing, singing, etc. Or maybe it will be vice versa. So all of this will disappear, and important knowledge will remain, and people will remember those who was working on particular fields. Again, now we remember from ancient Greece, we remember Plato, Aristotle, some different schools, Epicurean school, Stoic school, Pyrrhonists, Pythagoreans, and others. But and they most of these people, they were kind of very high-minded guys, and they were thinking a lot and doing all sorts of linguistic work, and that's why we remember them, because there's some knowledge. But now it seems that we may store knowledge not in only a written form, but also in recording videos and talking to each other. So it may also be possible that in the future, all sorts of information, like 99.9% of it will disappear, but something will remain. And what's going to be prudent? Again, what is the function? I digress from the question. What is the function of prudence in our society? So it probably, like, what does it do? Like, does it improve our society? It's very hard to tell, since in Middle Ages, in Dark Ages, they were concerned with prudence a lot. So people, especially when church was in power, when church was dominating power in Europe, they were like, prudence is one of the cardinal virtues, and these people talked about prudence all the time. But we know that it wasn't a very prudent time. But again, in ancient Greece, in Rome, they also discussed prudence and what is the function, right? What is the function of prudence in society? It helps us to survive. Well, definitely it allows us to survive. But it's not only about survival. It's about getting getting up the social ladder, right? So if you're prudent, you probably will understand what's going on. You'll make less mistakes, and it'll allow you to have a better life ultimately. But there may be other functions. Once again, why some prudent societies extinct, disappeared, like ancient Greece, for example. Yeah, they were very prudent, but where they are right now. So there's no ancient Greece, and Rome also was destroyed. But what we have now, probably it's more apt to survival. And prudent societies are not going to survive. They're very restricted by their narrow-mindedness, thinking only about how to make right decisions. And probably when it becomes an obsession, it may lead to all sorts of negative outcomes. But anyway, okay, it seems to be a kind of vague question, but there is certainly something which may be discussed, like different cultures. So we may compare like English culture, Russian culture, which one of them is more prudent, and how can we measure? Yeah, and how can we measure prudence? It's another question. Like, is there any objective way of measuring prudence? Is that question? And just, is there any objective measure of prudence? And if there is, well, what is it? And if there's not, how can we say that prudence is something real? Well, definitely, each one of us perceive other people and certain situations in which we're involved. Like, somebody makes a decision, somebody says something, or somebody does a particular action, whereas this action is unexpected, and then it turns out to be very prudent. Like, let's take some more modern examples, like Elon Musk, for example. So when he started his companies like SpaceX, for example, it was very unpopular, and nobody believed that it could be successful, and nobody believed in Elon Musk, and there were some failures at the first launch and the second launch. And if I don't know much about the history of SpaceX and Elon Musk, but essentially, like, I heard many gossips about it, and it seems that it was a prudent decision to continue doing this work and investing in what he was investing in. And he didn't give up. Finally, he became successful, and now he's one of the richest guy on earth, and probably one of the most misunderstood guy. But anyway, so the idea here is that it was prudent, and we may say, oh, this is like a prudent decision, like, to stick to your principles, to follow the course which you decided to follow, notwithstanding the public opinion, notwithstanding the public support. And again, we can't say that it's always true, right? We can't say that it always makes sense. Sometimes people, are very stubborn and do stupid things, right? Everybody tells them, like, well, what are you doing? It's stupid. Stop doing that. They know this is, I think it's very important and I have to do that. And then finally they just, lose their minds. Yeah, it may be like, it always depends on the situation. We can't say that any particular situation, there's a certain way of acting, like some prescriptions which will lead you to success. But anyway, they could like measure, right? But it always seems that we can understand. So we see, okay, there is a situation like with Elon Musk, and we generalize from that situation that we have to be, persistent in our decisions. We have to follow our dreams, our big vision, in spite of whatever the rest of the society tells us. And sometimes it works. Sometimes there are countless examples. If we start looking for these examples on the internet, we'll find tons of them. And I guess our beliefs about what is prudent and what is not prudent is also very important. So again, we may generalize from different situations, and then we may have a set of beliefs which are based on on some fantasies, and still we may think that we may try to match our beliefs, to fit in our beliefs, so like to act upon our beliefs. And it will be stupid, but we will still think that it's prudent, since this set of beliefs is basically developed in certain situations, which again, maybe just some exceptional cases, like, a broken clock shows the correct time twice a day. So it's like exactly the same principle may be derived from observing the people's behavior. So we see that something happened, we make a belief that this is a pattern which occurs regularly, but in reality it occurs just very rare. And then we have a set of beliefs which is completely unrealistic. We act upon these beliefs, and we think it's prudent, but it's not. So prudence, basically, in this case, we may say that we may measure prudence by our ability to, like, not ability, again, what is exactly, like, we definitely can't say that a man is prudent if he did something prudent once. So if it's just a rare case. But if we measure his behavior across different spheres, for example, we may look at somebody and see how successful they are in their career, and we may think, oh, this is a prudent man, since he is very, rich, famous, etc. But in his relationship with friends, in his relationship with his family, in probably in his emotional balance, he may be a very, very stupid man, right? But we may think, oh, it's not the case, since we just see one part of what's there and don't look at other parts. So prudence, it's kind of it's the mother of all virtues. Yeah. I guess just thinking about prudence, like depending, we may measure prudence by listening to how a man speaks, or a woman, or anybody. So if people who are, speak, if they're reasonable, if their reasons are truthful and based on real things, we may say that the person is prudent. And if they say some nonsense, which makes very little sense, or if they give advice which is totally unrealistic, or based on some fantasy, or whatever. So it may be an intuitive feeling. And also, I would say that I wouldn't say that there's an objective measure for prudence, but subjectively, of course, we all evaluate other people from our own lenses. And usually we may say that depending on how prudent are you, you will evaluate other people and say whether or not they're prudent. So for somebody who is like the champion of prudence, everybody else will be just a fool, right? Or okay, maybe not a fool, but essentially for somebody who developed prudence and who acts upon his, who is guided by prudence, like other people would probably not be as, some of them may be prudent, but again, usually it's a rare. So in our culture, in 21st century, to find somebody who is prudent, it's very rare occasion. It may be the case, of course, on the internet, you may look and find hundreds and thousands and probably millions of people who are very brilliant, who make amazing videos, who, judge whatever is going on precisely without making some unrealistic assumptions. But in real life, there are so many people who talk about something they do not understand, and there may be often I talk about something that I do not understand, but I'm doing it exactly to understand it. So, and I'm not claiming that this is true or that is true. I'm just trying to see how I think about a particular thing instead of teaching or telling somebody else something, or trying to convince somebody else. When I'm trying to convince somebody else, it's usually related to my personal experience. So I know, for example, that writing made me who I am right now. So writing actually was very helpful. I know that very few people can write, and I'm trying to persuade people to write at least 1 page a day, or probably maybe a few sentences every day, to think about their life through writing and develop this skill. Since writing, it's an extremely powerful skill. So if we are focused on writing for 5-10 years, if we invest our time and energy in developing this skill, it basically gives us some sort of superpower. So especially in our age, when we have an access to the computer, and through speech, we may reach, well, now we may reach basically everybody through speech, but through writing, yeah, maybe it was like more important previously when we didn't have the internet. But still, now writing, like some people just don't like to listen to people, to other people. And I would say that in my experience, I like reading more than listening to others, because when I listen to people, especially when it's some kind of spontaneous talks, like what I'm doing right now, not prepared. So I know that it takes much more time and energy to write a paper than to deliver a speech. And in speech, it may be more biased and dependent on emotions and all sorts of, extra factors which will weaken the speech and which will give less value to the information. Once again, to say everything what I'm saying right now here, it takes just, again, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Probably today I'll talk more, since I see that I have a desire to talk and I don't want to suppress it. But to write it down, it'll take me, just if I sit and write, it'll take me 30 minutes to write just 1 page. So I carefully arrange all my arguments, and I'm trying to think about them in depth. I don't rush to the conclusions, and I try to choose certain words which will convey the message. Whereas in speech, it's more spontaneous, it's fast, and I definitely can allow myself to be silent for a few minutes before proceeding to the next sentence. Of course, I can do that. I can train this capacity, this skill. It's some sort of rhetorical devices, but do I need it? Well, at some, of course, if I make videos to teach other people, of course, it may be necessary to develop these rhetorical devices. But when I do it for my own understanding, now for me, what's really important is not to persuade somebody, but to say as much as possible in the shortest period of time and clarify the concept. Anyway, okay, measurement, that was the third question. The fourth question is, what does prudence have to do with morality? And recently, when I was studying virtue, virtue, basically, it's most of it is about morality. And the word morality itself, it shares roots with the word, what was the word? Ethics. Yeah, like ethics and morality. These words are like Latin word morality derived from, it's basically the word ethics in ancient Greek. And the word ethics has a root with ethos. And ethos is basically a certain type of conduct common across a particular culture, not the culture, yeah, maybe a culture, maybe just a group of people. So it's kind of collective character. So essentially, we say that morality, it's a particular type of behavior and particular principles of behavior shared by a certain community. And in this case, when we talk about prudence, so prudence, what does it have to do with morality? Essentially, prudence teaches you how to behave in a particular environment at a particular time towards particular people. And I guess prudence, basically everybody who tries to teach prudence, and there are a lot, those people are called basically moralists or religious people, and it's not, it's one of the what are function of religion, basically to teach you how to behave appropriately in in this world to get to the other world, or there are some different religions, they have different principles, different sets of rules, but I'm not talking about I'm talking about morality. So in morality, everyone who wants to behave properly, like prudence is a guide to a proper behavior, and morality basically is this type of behavior. So it's like, I guess you can't be moral, you can't develop your moral superiority if you don't know anything about prudence. So prudence and morality here, like morality, it's also, it's maybe a set of principles, and it may be a particular way of looking at the world. And prudence, it's something that allows us to obtain these these principles and this way of looking at the world. So there's a particular, let's say, worldview, kind of moral worldview. When you value such things as kindness, empathy, etc., and you may not have these qualities, so you may not be kind, and that's probably why you value kindness, since deep inside you know about your nature, and you think, oh, I'm such an angry person, whatever happens I become angry, and kindness probably is so it deserves worship. I have to worship kindness, and I will and I won't be angry. Yeah, and you evaluate it so high, and then prudence basically helps you to, if you're a very angry person, helps you to control your anger and become more kind. And again, like anger, we may use the word evil, so you know that you're evil person inside. And then you see that morality basically values kindness, and it it attacks all sorts of evil, whatever, behavior, thoughts. And if you don't want to be an evil person, and if you want to be a moral person, a good person, you basically need prudence to guide you, to teach you how to get rid of your negative emotions, how to control them, how to use them properly. Sometimes, of course, anger is in Aristotle, for example, he talks a lot about all types of emotions are necessary. The point is, how do we use them? So if they use us, it's not virtuous. But when we use them at a particular situation at the appropriate time towards appropriate people, this is actually virtuous, and prudence guides us to towards this moral worldview. And I'm not advocating for morality and anything like that. I'm not a moralist. It's just I'm trying to describe what's going on to see how I can understand. So the next question is there any way to teach prudence? And I guess it also refers to morality, but well, let's just contemplate this question. Like, is there any way to teach prudence? Can you teach somebody to be prudent? Well, I think, yes, there must be some way of teaching prudence. Like severe punishment, for example, in nature teaches prudence seriously. Yeah, I think, like, prudence, once again, it's a narrow it's a narrow word, or it's a like wisdom, it's a more broad concept, and prudence, it's less broad. It's a more narrow concept. And I would say that in my life, well, let me tell something about my personal experience. So I was a fool for 20 years of my life, 20, 21 year. And well, doesn't mean that I was like stupid, but my behavior and let's say my choices, if there were choices, like I wouldn't say again that it was for my entire life, since the first, I would say 7-8 years was quite good. And yeah, I did everything right, except a few times once I broke my leg, and another time I broke my arm. It wasn't prudent. In both cases, I just tried to show off. And, the first case, it was obvious showing off when I climbed the ladder and jumped from it, because we played the game who will climb from the upper stair at the ladder, and I climbed the highest one, jumped, and it wasn't prudent. And then again, in my life, there are so many stupid examples where I didn't think about what I was doing, and I didn't try to analyze it afterwards. And I would say the first time when I came across this idea of prudence and thinking and learning and wisdom, it was probably 2007. So 2007, 14 years ago, I read obviously some books, and I started reevaluating my life. Of course, there were some moments before, but they didn't lead to any actions. So I could watch some movies, I could read some, something, I could have conversations with people. They could affect me for one or few days, for a week, but essentially it never led to like reevaluating my life and getting rid of. No, I tried to quit smoking, for example, many times before 2007, and sometimes I was successful. I didn't smoke for half a year, but still later, yeah, I got back, and it wasn't only about smoking, but smoking as one example. It's in my experience a very good example. So, but yeah, and before 2007, as I said, it was 2001 when I got a disease. I don't know how it's called in English. In Russia, it's called yazva. So it's like in your stomach, you have some problems, some pain, and then it's just, how is it called? Let's find it out. Okay, I didn't have it. I didn't have a screen. Okay, let me see. There must be the name for it. Yeah, there's a particular disease, and I had it at 2015, and I quit smoking immediately for a couple of weeks. But then when disease was cured, I forgot about it and started smoking again, and probably even more than I smoked before, and drinking beer. Yeah, it was all 2001, 2002, 2003. Okay, in Russia, we'll see how it's called in English. That's fascinating. I don't know the word. I never thought about it in English before. My computer is too slow today. Doesn't want to work. Okay, in English, it's ulcer, and ulcer. Is it ulcer? Is the right pronunciation? Ulcer or ulcer? Ulcer. Okay, so I had this ulcer, and yeah, it was a lesson. I immediately became prudent, as I said, for a couple of weeks. But as soon as it was cured, I forgot about it and started smoking again and drinking beer in heavy amounts. Like I was a kid. I was 15 years old, and 16 years old, I would say. In 2002, I remember one of my regular behavior was to buy 1.5 liters of beer and drink it at once. And or sometimes it was just 2 bottles of beer, and by at once I mean literally. So I open up and I showed off like when I did that. For me, it was not only I derived pleasure not only from beer, but from the way how I drank it, and especially there were some people around. I enjoyed to be observed. So what did I do? I just opened the bottle, put it here, and drank it at once. Then put it down, take another bottle, open it, do here, and drank it at once. Just in one whatever, just at once in basically 10-15 seconds, sometimes even faster. And then I do like this and take a cigarette and go and play video games for a night. Basically, yeah, that's what was I doing. And it was like for years I was doing such things, for fucking years. Yeah. I mean, that's what I want to say about Prudence, that Prudence basically, yeah. Is it possible to teach somebody prudence? I guess nature and experience teaches prudence, but to influence somebody who doesn't understand what he is doing or she is doing, it for most part it's waste of time. So no matter how prudent I am, no matter how much I know, no matter how much experience I have, if I start telling you that you should quit smoking, for example, and you are smoking for 5 or 10 years, and I also smoked for 15 years. If I start telling you that it'll lead to dangerous, like to some unpleasant whatever feelings in the future. Well, in some, of course, there are some chances when you can escape. For example, you are smoking for 5 years, and then you are you crashed in an accident and you die, and you don't basically care, because who cares about, if you die from an accident, you may smoke it, it's okay. But it's not okay. That was an argument which I bought in when I was a child. So essentially, the idea was, you may do whatever you like with your life. So if you like to smoke, smoke. If you like to drink, drink. If you like to speak like an idiot, speak like an idiot. If you like to, like, whatever you like, do that. It's okay, since nobody is going to live forever, and it's better. Like, if you don't do anything bad, you will die. You will die. As an old fart. Well, it was also an argument. I don't remember all of these arguments, but essentially the point was that, do all sorts of stupid things. It's okay to do them. And I was doing all these things for 20 years. And 20, yeah, I wouldn't like the real wisdom came from books, obviously, but not only from books, basically from writing and analyzing what was I doing. But I started writing after I read books, and it was Castaneda, Aristotle, and Osho, like the first 3 authors whom I read 2017. First was Osho, few small books, dynamic meditation. I started practicing dynamic meditation, which was crazy. I went to the forest, dressed off, and did some silly movements. Like it was funny and crazy simultaneously. And I did it at early in the morning at 7 p.m. that nobody would see me. I had a bicycle, and I drove to the lake. I swam there, then I drove to the forest. And it's dynamic meditation. It takes 40 minutes to perform. There are 4 basically actions, like 4 sets of certain activities, and you basically do these activities one after another. And I was doing that for a couple of months probably, and it opened so many wonderful stream of consciousness in my thinking, in my perception. I started seeing the world in a different way. But then I quit, and I found better ways of opening up my mind. So different types of meditation, essentially. But I don't know, maybe dynamic meditation, I would like to do it like a few times more. But yeah, you have to be in an open space when there's no people, since one of the phase of this meditation is relieving all emotions. And it basically means that for 10 minutes, you allow yourself to feel everything you want, or everything you want to feel at this particular moment. So it may be crying, it may be weeping, it may be all sorts of crazy things. And I try to force myself to experience, sometimes I wanted to experience a great, disappointment or whatever, and I just wept heavily. And sometimes I want to, laugh on purpose. So I didn't want to laugh, but I started laughing more and more and more, and basically put myself in such conditions which were like total madness. But anyway, yeah, I would say that these few guys like Osho and Castaneda, and in Castaneda, well, for me, Castaneda and Aristotle basically it's the same guys. I mean, many people take Castaneda as a kind of spiritual guy who talks about, seeing energy or taking psychedelics or shifting your, your assemblage point. And for me, all these examples, they are metaphors. And basically in Castaneda, for me, it's more about changing your life and being like sobriety, I guess, the main notion in Castaneda. So you become sober, you quit everything unnecessary, and you focus on a particular good, like which are good for you, obviously, on good things, and you do these good things more and more. And develop strength, develop unbend, like such concepts as unbended intention. This is so powerful. Like, all these in Castaneda, when later I read Aristotle in 2008 and Castaneda 2007 2008, and I compared them, and I found so many concepts which basically were about the same. Like there was in Castaneda, there was like will, forbearance, control, and timing, like some principles of stalking, and stalking, dreaming, amazing concepts. In Aristotle, it's basically the same virtue. So Castaneda, like for me, Castaneda is basically Don Juan. It's a manifestation of all virtues combined in one person. And Castaneda is basically, if Castaneda just makes a character who teaches everybody, it doesn't work. But Castaneda makes himself inferior, though he is a narrator, he is a writer, but he creates a character which is much stronger than he himself. And he shows, like he tries to present himself as a rational man, as a student of university, as a well-educated man. And he opposes himself, this Don Juan, this like another character, and shows how this Don Juan and by all means superior to Castaneda. And in this case, he basically creates a character to criticize the average, average intellectual of our time, and showing how stupid our average intellectual of our time may be in a comparison with this wise, Indian of ancient Mexico. But for me, of course, like this Indian of ancient Mexico is basically an idealization of all virtues, and it's not just about our century or previous century. It's about like all virtues across many different cultures. But anyway, so again, talking too much. Let's go on. So the question was, is there any way to teach prudence? Yeah, stories, like writing, maybe some. Yeah, I don't think movies are very effective. And again, stories, also a short story probably will not have a serious effect. Reading a lot of books, like focusing on one particular author and reading this author for as much time as necessary to transform your perception and your stream of consciousness. So for me, I definitely, if I will resurrect after my death in some other body. I mean, if I'm aware, if I'm here, like let's suppose if I'm watching it at 2000, not 2000, let's say 2150, whatever, 22nd century, 23rd century, and I want to be prudent. So is there any way to teach prudence? It's basically taking serious, prudent guys from the past and reading their works one after another without being distracted by anything else. So maybe it may be also the case when you take some serious thinkers of the present, Now there are lots of like serious thinkers on YouTube. You may take their channels, their videos, and just watch them one video after another until you transform your understanding. Until like you become this person. You stop being yourself and become this person, just listening to everything what they say and trying to analyze. Doesn't mean that you have to imitate this person, but basically means that you have to like forget about yourself and see what it is to think as this guy. And again, who exactly, I would not recommend anybody. Maybe myself. Well, yeah, but in the case that like if we talk about reading, well, Aristotle, it's a nice example, but Aristotle is boring, but that's exactly the point. So you have to get through all this boredom. So you have to read all his books, even if it's boring, it's very helpful still. Castaneda probably makes a lot of sense, but again, Castaneda, I'm not so sure, since I see countless examples of people who are kind of dummies, even though they read Castaneda, they still understand very little, and maybe they transform their lives, but in a way which I don't like to transform my life. So instead of becoming sober and disciplined and rigorous thinkers, they usually become some no, they fantasize about concepts which they do not understand. All right, some Asian philosophy, Nietzsche, it's better to start from Kant. So Kant, Hegel, Nietzsche, Kant, Hegel, Schopenhauer, Feuerbach, Nietzsche. This is a powerful, let's say, chain of thinkers, which I would definitely recommend. If like, for me, it was the enormous influence. Like when I read Hegel, then Schopenhauer, then like Hegel, then Fichte, then Feuerbach, then Schopenhauer, and then Nietzsche. Like all these five, and Kant. Like after Schopenhauer, first I read Kant, and then only Nietzsche. These 5-6 thinkers, like 50 books of these guys, and I basically read for about 50 of their books, like 50 fat books, 500 pages in just a few years, basically in one approach. So if you are able to do that, you may become very, very prudent guy simply by doing that. Of course, it requires all sorts of other activities. You can just simply read. Reading itself is not enough. You have to transform your behavior. That's what makes you prudent. So you read, you understand the information, you understand how to judge something that you wasn't able to judge before. You immediately see the difference between people, so you can understand who is who and whom you would like to follow and from whom you would like to run away. And essentially, of course, when you read like these guys whom I just mentioned, you will run away from everybody, since you see, wow, these guys, they're stunning, and everybody else is just okay. I digress. Let's get back to the questions. I planned to talk for 20 minutes, but I see it got more exciting than I expected, and now I'm talking for a longer time. But it's okay. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. So, what are you ready to give to become prudent? Yeah, this is a deep question. Like for myself, I wouldn't speculate on it for a long time, just a few minutes. But I guess it requires thinking. So it can be answered spontaneously. But it's also interesting to see what would you answer spontaneously to think about it later. Like what is your immediate answer? Like in my opinion, I would give everything I have. So to get prudence, I would give everything I have, essentially. And I have nothing. I mean, what can I give? Just my time, my attention. Well, in terms of, if I were, let's say, younger, yeah, and I don't want to recommend anybody anything, but it's just my experience. So I sacrificed all my relationships with people in 2007, when I read this, like first Castaneda, then Aristotle, then Saltykov-Shchedrin, then most of Russian classics, and later German classics and German philosophers. I basically sacrificed all relationship for I sacrificed all relationships for being able to read these guides and learn to write and to think. I also sacrificed, my ambitions to become wealthy, since once again, 2000, before 2007, one of the guiding star of my of me was one of my guiding star was wealth, the idea of wealth. I wanted to be rich. I wanted to earn lots of money. And in 2011, I decided that it's no longer important. So I gave up all these, all these dreams which I had before about money, and I decided that what's enough just to get rid of. Well, first I want to get rid of wage slavery. So the problem with wage slavery, of course, it was crucial and one of the most important problems which I solved in 2011. But actually, I solved it in 2009 when I discovered poker and started playing poker. For 2 years, I've been playing poker. There was no boss who dictated me what to do, and I finally got free. But I had a lot of money at that time. I mean, a lot by my personal standards. So I had $1,000 a month on average, and I ate at restaurants. I bought some expensive things, and then I realized that all this is unnecessary. So I may survive if I have just $100 per month, like 10 times smaller than I had at that time. And I kind of thought about the future and realized that the less money I am dependent on, the better. So what I want to do, I want to read books, I want to write, I want to have an access to the nature, to go to the forest, to run, to do exercises, and I don't want to work at all. So, and then, well, a couple of years of poker taught me how to be free, and then finally I had some job which provided me with enough money, and this job I had to do only like 30 days a year. So it's like one or 2 days a month, few days a month, essentially. And yeah, now I don't need money. To survive, I need just even less than $100 per month. Wait, maybe not less, but maybe, yeah, 1,000, let's say $2,000 per year. It's for me, it's more than necessary. And I don't want more than necessary. That's the idea. So I want to have exact amount of money to buy food and to buy all necessary things. Unnecessary things, I just avoid them completely. And yeah, this was an idea which changed my mind. And I sacrificed, as I said, my ambition to become wealthy. But also, again, I sacrificed all my friends. I don't communicate with anybody whom I communicated with up till 2007. And I guess like when I started studying English at 2017, I sacrificed all my relationship with people, like all my friends whom I had later. So now I don't communicate with anybody at all except those who visit my speaking club. And yeah, it's like wisdom, the pursuit of wisdom. I don't recommend it to everybody since it may be, very unpleasant. But for me, yeah, I find it's not about pleasure. It's basically about emotional control, self-control. I know that if I engage in a relationship with people, I become full so fast. So I need a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom to be, to be who I am with myself. And I know that it will not bring lots of happiness to other people if I'm going to be around them. And yeah, okay, it's too much about myself. Anyway, so sacrifices, right? Don't sacrifice, but what are you ready to give up to get prudence? And the following question is related to this one. And this is, like, I guess it was the last question, but I'll put it here. So if you had, oh no, this is actually the last question. If you had an artificial prudence embedded in your brain, telling you moment by moment what to do, would you follow it? So in this case, when we say that prudence is a kind of mind, right? So it's language or mind or vision. And the question is, like, of course, if you identify with it, you'll probably do everything what it tells you. It may be like kind of conscientiousness or conscious, like you're conscious, this idea of it seems that you always know what's right, what's wrong, but not always you are able to do what's right. And sometimes you do what's wrong, and your conscience tells you, this is stupid, this is not prudent, stop doing that, or stop delaying some particular thing which you have to do. Yeah, I would like to, if I had something like that, I guess I'm, for the last 14 years, since this moment, since 2007, I am working on developing this artificial prudence in myself. So it's a sort of intentionality. It's a sort of emotion, but even though it's not an emotion at all, but it's some kind of, we may call it a linguistic behavior, some kind of language. And I'm gonna give a perfect example. I have it every day. I mean, such experiences I have almost every day, but today was one which was more distinct from others. So in the morning, I woke up and I had kind of more energy than usually. And so I did I washed my face, went to the bathroom, brushed my teeth. Then usually my morning routine consists of going to the roof and getting sunlight. Recently, I learned that it's very important to get sunlight as fast as possible early in the morning to start a certain process in your brain. So there are certain neurons in our eyes which perceive the sunlight, and as soon as they get enough amount of sunlight, they start the process of producing some hormone, not hormones, like maybe some melatonin. So they start the process of producing melatonin, and melatonin basically, as soon as there's enough melatonin in our body, it basically tells our body that it's time to sleep. And if we start this process early in the morning, so as soon as, let's suppose I wake up at 7 and I go in 7:20 and get sunlight, and at 7:30, 7:40, this process starts, and usually it accumulates enough melatonin for a particular amount of time, like 14 hours, 15 hours. I don't know exactly how much. I guess it depends on the person. And then you naturally want to fall asleep. So in my case, I experienced lots of problems since, I did exercises, but I didn't go and I didn't get sunlight. And for me, I guess since 2012 or 2011 till recently, till the March of this year, I had many problems with sleep. I wouldn't call them serious problems, but essentially the main problem was that I couldn't fall asleep. So I go in bed and I could lie in bed for few hours, 3 hours, sometimes 5 hours without falling asleep. And it caused lots of troubles. And as soon as I started doing getting sunlight, and as soon as I realized how it works, after I watched the Andrew Huberman's podcast, by the way, if you are interested in that, you may go and watch Andrew Huberman's podcast. I guess it's one of the first his podcasts on YouTube. So after I realized that, I started doing that, and it was extremely powerful. And now I almost solved all these problems. So I naturally wake up at 7 a.m., which was unattainable. Like a few years ago, it was a dream. I was dreaming all the time. How can I wake up at 8 p.m., at least at 8 p.m.? And now 7 p.m. for me, it's kind of natural way of waking up. And I know how to shift this, and that's fascinating. But anyway, so I was saying that, I wanted to give an example. So I went to the roof, got the sunlight, practiced some memory exercises. And it's also, for me, it's not just only getting sunlight, just simply looking at the sky, but also I practiced some exercises. So now I'm working on studying stream dedicated to the Beyond Good and Evil, the book by Nietzsche. And I memorize paragraphs from this book and repeat them. So today and every morning, so what I'm doing, I just repeat the paragraph which I'm working on during this week. So I was on the roof, then I had more energy than usually. And after doing this memory exercise, memory gymnastics, I went home and I wanted to get on the internet. So it was just 40 minutes after I woke up, or 50 minutes. And I had this desire to what, not dismiss, what's the word? Okay, I had this desire not to do my regular exercises, but to turn on the internet and start, reading, going on Khan Academy, solving some tasks, probably recording a studying stream. And I wanted it so much, so that I actually wanted to do that. But my natural behavior, there was another voice kind of in my head, or another, let's say, prudence, conscious, whatever. I was saying, come on, like, I have to do the exercise. There's no actual reason to go on the internet. I don't want to, to disrupt my daily routine just because I feel good and want to do something else. So it's like, it's a part of my routine. I usually do it. And I like, well, now it doesn't sound as well as it sounded when I was like kind of thinking about it. And for me, it was like, it was very strong. And finally, I persuaded myself to do exercises instead of going on the internet. And that's what, so usually I have to do it every day, almost every day. So there's a desire to, to get some easy dopamine. So on the internet, whenever I go on the internet, it's dopamine all the time, and for nothing. You just basically watch some videos and get as much dopamine as you need. But this is kind of hard dopamine, since it's a part of my daily routine. And by exercise, I basically mean Jin, some Chinese gymnastics, and meditation, and juggling, and some other things. So it usually takes me like for about an hour to accomplish this routine exercise. Yeah, and today, once again, like this basically, I guess Prudence helped me, since I was thinking about, is it prudent to go on the internet? So there was this desire to go immediately on the internet, and I asked myself, is it prudent, or is it prudent to just stop and do exercises just to start? Yeah. And in many cases, it's I have these desires of doing something, and I know that I have to do something else, but instead of doing something else, I give up on something important for me and do something that I want immediately right now. And I don't think it's a prudent way of behaving, prudent way of doing things. But sometimes, of course, I may give up, but it's quite rare. Anyway, so there was like 7 questions which I discussed. I guess it turned out much longer than I expected. But anyway, so it's if you're a member of our speaking club, and if you're going to come to the club, it may be very beneficial for you also to have similar meditation. So you may take all these questions and think about them on your own. And even better if you just talk about them. So you take each question and try to talk about it for 5 minutes and see what's going to come. Since again, in my case, I didn't prepare anything but questions. So I was thinking about questions, and everything I said later, I expected that I will say just a few minutes about every question, but then I discovered that I want to talk more, and I didn't restrict myself. I decided, okay, if I want to talk more, why should I restrict myself? Anyway, you may do it as well. See, I may I just show you how to build kind of whatever you may build, a conceptual understanding of particular idea by meditating on it and doing some brainstorm. Yeah, for me, that's exactly what it is. So it's some kind of brainstorm. I do it, then there are questions, there are some directions in which these questions may be unfold. And even if, usually people come to the club and some of them don't know what to say. So in these cases, I already have something prepared. I already know what may be said about this or that question, and I may just give them, some encouragement to talk by themselves about what I already discovered. But anyway, yeah, I think I have to finish here. So yes, tomorrow I probably will make another studying stream on Prudence, where I'm going to read partially Wikipedia's article and partially Aristotle and Nicomachean Ethics, and dedicate probably another hour to analyze in depth this concept before to take it and talk about it on Saturday. That's it for today. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.